And all the way from China is my cheap hot wire cutting machine. What am I going to do with it? Now I can cut all this foam. I need to use it. So I'm going to build, for my first terrain on my battle mat, some pretty hefty walls, block line of sight and fire. That way we have full cover. So with a bunch of pieces cut, they're all about a Space Marine and a half tall, so they don't poke their little heads over it. And I also cut some of these slips on the side that I could use for reinforcement panels on the wall. Yeah, again, hot wire makes this stuff so easy and quick. Even if it is a cheap one that's rubbish, it still gets the job done once you work out its quirks. So now it's time for assembly. So hot glue gun, and first I'm going to put some of these support strips on the end of the walls and burn my hands with the hot glue because it squeezed out the edges, and I clean it up. The next thing, now this looks kind of weird, but I like to cut my pieces actually on the model instead of pre-cutting them. And it's just because I'm terrible at cutting. It's always just that little bit smaller or that little bit bigger. And I'll end up throwing pieces away or something. So when I can, this is how I do it. It looks a little bit weird, but it works for me, and that way I get a nice flush cut most of the time. So with the end supports on both sides done, it's time for the bottom brace. Again, I've laid it out and I cut it on the model. So again, it looks weird, it looks terrible. For those of you that are good at cutting and measuring and you know, you don't have to do it this way. It just, for me, it works. So there's the bottom brace. Then we'll glue that on, and that is the basic structure done. Now, someone's been shooting at this wall. So my next stage is I get the paintbrush end and I start poking holes in the wall, usually in a line for automatic weapons fire. I gouge great chunks out of the wall, especially along the top. Try and break down as many straight edges as you can. You don't have to do all of them, but it's more effective when you're breaking up straight lines. Try and make it as random as you can as well. There you go. So you can see bullet holes, shell holes. Some of them go through. The other side's got great big pock marks on it. The other thing is, as in real life, some's got more than others. So, you know, you don't, depending on how mad you go, it doesn't matter. Now, wherever there's deep impact craters, it is going to reveal rebar or mesh. For this, I use a plasterer's tape for repairs. It's sticky on one side. So basically you just cut it to shape to fit in whichever crater is deep enough, and then poke it in there, and there we go. We've got rebar, so, or mesh, whatever they use to build these. Once your walls are all built and you've got them ready, now we're going to coat them, and we are going to coat them with a mixture of PVA, paint, and, believe it or not, plaster of Paris. Now the PVA gets diluted with water to make it much easier to work with. Also buys me some working time. I put about, well, looking here, because I don't measure it, I do it by eyeball. I put about a third of the water in as what I put PVA, and then give that a good mix up. And then once that's mixed up, you put in your plaster of Paris. I don't put in a lot. I put in about, I don't know, about half as much as I put in water, maybe about as much as I put in water. And then give that a good stir up as well. And you will have your covering materials. So now it's time to slap it all on there. I use a cheap soft bristled brush. Of course, try saying that after a couple of beers. Make sure you get in every nook and cranny. What this does effectively is it coats the polystyrene in like a rubberized coat and it protects it. So if you drop it or scratch it, it's not gonna, break up or anything like that. And it's pretty tough. I mean, you don't try stamping up and down on it, but for normal wear and tear during a game, it holds up really well. Again, make sure you're getting every nook and cranny. And then what's going to happen is it dries pretty quick. And then once it's dry, you're going to give it a second coat. So that'll harden it up and make it ready for play. And once they're dry, they're ready for whatever you want to do to them. You can, highlight them, put graffiti, posters. These are some that are finished. I've highlighted them. I'm going to add some details on there, like the graffiti, the posters. I'm also maybe add an electrical box or two with a pipe going down. There's all kinds of stuff you can add to these walls, but even in their plain state, they're pretty effective. They look interesting and they're good for gameplay. So thanks for watching. Hope this helps, gives you some ideas. You can knock them out really quick as well, with especially with that wire cutter now. I can knock these out so fast. But we need terrain. The storage is an issue, so these will lay flat. They stand up on their own very well. And don't forget, like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one.